Matthew has been playing the Ring of Elders, or the Elden Ring. That one.
God, hang on.
This small indie game from Software. I'm not sure if people have heard of it, but sometimes we have to do the work and highlight these small games for people to check out here. We're a small podcast, but we never know. Maybe
I was just
we'll
going to say, you'd think anyone who listens to this podcast for the first time will be like, who pays these people to speak so much shit? Joke's on you. No one's paying us.
Yeah, we speak shit for free.
Okay,
that's how you know it's quality.
I'm gonna try something. Yeah, it's probably not gonna work because it's my Twitch stream. But
okay,
just to see if we can have some background footage.
Are you gonna play Elden Ring live?
Hilarious! Look, okay, just pretend this video viewers. Just pretend this little weird cuts isn't here.
Thankfully, the cameras are blocking your death count, which is real suspicious.
It's super
interesting.
high. Yeah, cool. Just so we have something to keep on in the background. But yeah, We've been playing the Ring of Elders, Elden Ring, which for those of you who don't know, from this tiny and not tiny studio called From Software, whose claim to fame are titles like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro. Which,
never heard of them.
If you've never heard of them or played them, are notoriously difficult games, but very well designed, lore-packed, and just fun games to play if you can wrap your head around. The very unintuitive systems and combat and stuff, which, when you wrap your head around, then be like, yeah, it's actually not that bad, but whatever. I digress. Elden Ring is their latest title, which for all intents and purposes functions, it's kind of like all three games took lessons from each other and then just birth out an open world variant. Although I will say
it just came out.
Just came out. I will say out of all those games, it obviously probably closely resembles Dark Souls the most. For obvious reasons. Like Bloodborne and Sekiro are very different sort of games for that studio.
Yeah. I think just in terms of like gear and
aesthetic and a whole lot of other things.
And leveling up, it's more there's more options, so it's more of a Dark Souls-y type of game.
But that whole series of games, they were for the most part linear. I mean, even I use linear loosely because there's usually like a critical path, and there are some side areas you can explore, but it really is you going from A to B to C to fight one boss to the next boss, whatever.
There's a defined structure. You can only enter this place from this place type of thing. Yeah.
Whereas Elden Ring is their first like proper open world game, and it's very much a case of they don't tell you where to go at all. You literally just dropped into the starting area called Limgrave, in this typically FromSoft world that has no context. You don't know why the hell you're here. And you can just explore at your own leisure, and it's real good. I mean, this is funny because I've only played 10 hours. I mean, 10 hours is a fair bit of time to put into a game, but I really have barely scratched the surface. And having read reviews and chatting to other people playing the game, this game is dense. Like there's a lot of content here, and I think despite me still being early days, what really not sets it apart, but it really, to me highlights why it was praised and why it has reviewed so well is that none of this content feels like it's just been copy pasted. You don't walk into an area and go like, oh, it's kind of looks like that last place I went to. Chances of you poke around a bit, you'll walk into a cave, find a completely different kind of boss to what you fought before. And if you're a fan of that good Dark Souls combat, it's that, but like on a much bigger scale. So I'm having an absolute blast with this game, and I can't wait to just keep chipping away at it more. There's lots to see and do.
I haven't started the game because I feel like I need to wrap up other
you need
open world commitments.
You need time to sink into this game. So
I kind of want to be playing this game as like the only game and not bouncing between it and other stuff. And so, because of that, I've been taking a lot of the game in through just social media and just general like osmosis, I guess. And the one thing that keeps coming up is like, everyone says this is the first sort of open world game to kind of understand the lessons that Breath of the Wild taught like 5 years ago. And like in your experience, what sort of similarities or improvements does From make on an open world structure like that? I guess obviously the first is like they don't tell you anything, just like Breath of the Wild is like, you've got this open world, go for it. But what else?
I think, I mean, I think we'll get to the what else, but just on that alone, it's funny because a lot of newcomers to the game, or a lot of people coming to the franchise for the first time, have said, we know the game's difficult, but it's weird that there aren't quest markers, for example. And spoiler, from games never have quest markers. They just straight up put you in, and you kind of have to figure out where to go, through signposting and other things. But I think that comparison to Breath of the Wild is very apt, purely because why Breath of the Wild to me and many others was so, sorry, pardon the pun, a real breath of fresh air, was the fact that you were just dropped into the world and there was nobody telling you like you have to go there. I mean, you were given, there are these 4 divine beasts you have to go sort of liberate. There's the main castle, and that was it. That was the only setup, and you just kind of get to do what you want, however you want. And I think that game also just puts tools in your hands to just mess around and just have fun. So this Elden Ring definitely does that. If the map comes up at any point on the feed, just notice like how big that is, and I can zoom out. It is huge. There's just lots to do, and there's still lots that I need to explore. But I think what probably for me is one of my favorite things about the game is the stories that come from it. Purely because no one's experiencing this game the same way, like at all. There's very few people that I've spoken to, like literally no one, and I know a lot of people playing this game that have had the exact same experience I have. I mean, I'm streaming this and I have friends popping in who are playing the game saying like, oh my God, I didn't know this boss existed. And I'm like, but I'm in the starting area. And it's not a thing of like, how did you miss this? It's just like, yeah, through sheer coincidence, or even time of the day in this specific instance, was a fact of I happened to walk into this place at nighttime and the boss only appears at nighttime. So it's just been fun chatting to people saying like, have you found this boss, for example? Like, no, like where is that? Show me where it is, whatever. I mean, on stream it was a thing of I fought a boss and people are like, oh my God, where is that? Open the map. Like I want to go explore that area on my map. Oh, I haven't been there yet. Okay, cool. Like, I went east and you've gone south, for example. There's just that factor, which is, it's fun to be part of the zeitgeist of, how are you playing the game? Have you done this yet? Oh my God, have you found this secret? You should go that way. Or I don't know. It's just on that front, it's different to, for lack of a better comparison, like say a Ubisoft, stereotypical Far Cry or Assassin's Creed, where you very much
the paint by numbers,
paint by the numbers thing of like how many people are really sharing those stories. Like, did you go?
Of course, yeah.
I mean, look, it happens obviously, but not to this level where it feels like everyone's doing something differently, and it's just it's unreal how. It's kind of weird. It'll be kind of weird to play a game that isn't like this now. Like I was telling you before the podcast, that Breath of the Wild did its thing, and a lot of games have tried to learn from that game. Make it more open, a little bit more flexible. But it feels
feel like there's been a single open world game that has learned the right lessons.
Yeah, exactly. Like a good example, like a good recent example, is Horizon Forbidden West, where you've just told me you hit a part sort of like halfway through the game, not halfway, but a fair bit into the game, where now the map has opened up and it's like you can go do any of these 3 objectives, which isn't a Breath of the Wild thing, but it's very much, it feels like they're trying to give you that freedom of like, you can do this in any order you want, despite us still like, almost holding your hand.
They're trying to pretend you have agency.
Exactly.
Games like these are literally built on the back of agency.
Yeah. So. But it feels like Elden Ring is the first game I've played in the last 5 years where it gives me that sense of exploration that Breath of the Wild did. Like, there is a sense of satisfaction, or there was in Breath of the Wild of, yeah, let me go climb that mountain, and then, there's a shrine there, let me paraglide down there. Oh, there's this weird there's a Korok there, there's a thing I can do here, or whatever. Elden Ring very much gives that same thing of, yeah, let me just go to that empty fort over there. Oh, shit, there's a mini boss here. And it's just that on a huge scale. Like, I've put in 10 hours. I haven't even left the starting area. I haven't ticked off everything in that starting area. And I know people we know reviewers, for example, whoever reviewed it for IGN, they didn't sleep, took them 80 hours to finish the game.
Something hours, yeah.
And then other people who reviewed it were like, well, I've put in about 60 to 70 hours into this game and I'm not close to finish, but like I've had a fantastic time.
And I'm sure even with the, in the case of like 80 to whatever hours, there's stuff there that they haven't found because there's
100%, yeah.
There's just stuff that you can outright miss. And I mean, FromSoft games have always had this. I mean, if you look at Bloodborne, you mentioned Cainhurst Castle. If you look at Dark Souls 3, you have God, what's that city with the dragons? Whatever. I forgot. I literally just played that game and I can't remember that city name. But yeah, there's like whole areas and whole bosses that you straight up like. I played Bloodborne twice before I went to Cainhurst Castle. And Cainhurst Castle feels like an entirely new level, and it's got one of the coolest bosses in the game.
Exactly.
It's just like,
it's just there.
if you just don't go there, then you don't go there. And what I think is so interesting about FromSoft is like they don't care. Like they do not care if you see everything or don't in this game, and that's part of the charm. And I feel like other open world games are so concerned about you seeing everything that they make sure that you see everything, and through that they strip away the sense of discovery because you're not making those organically. They are telling you to go here to do this, go here to do this, because we want to make sure that you have fun in these specific ways in these specific places. Whereas FromSoft games and now Elden Ring, just to a whole new degree, is like, this is a world, you have your fun in it as you wish, And I'm not surprised then to hear people like, Kervin, who mentioned earlier this week that this is sort of scratching a like Elder Scrolls Skyrim itch that he hasn't had before. And I like, even though Bethesda open world games are still that paint by numbers, like go here, do this type of game, they are still filled with like big open spaces and very dynamic events. Yeah. And I feel like that, to be honest, I feel like that's where Breath of the Wild got its inspiration from, was like, how can we do this better? You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
So it's really cool.
I saw a tweet today. I'm gonna absolutely butcher the word for word, but it's somebody was basically saying like Elden Ring feels like something that came out 10 years after Skyrim and 5 years after Breath of the Wild, which is, like you said, it's basically saying that Breath of the Wild took inspiration from like a Bethesda game, and Elden Ring has now taken inspiration from the two from Breath of the Wild and before it's Skyrim, whatever. And it's just like it's just a good time. I think
to me it's the first one to really learn from Breath of the Wild. Like everyone I feel like open world games, they looked at Breath of the Wild, they're like, what do people like? Paragliders and and being able to climb on everything. And it's like, no, you have completely missed the point of what is actually good. In these, what makes Breath of the Wild good? You've completely missed the point. Those are just tools to aid the exploration. The exploration is the thing that, is interesting.
Yeah.
So, but I'm curious to know, like, with this open world structure, do you feel still sort of like, part of the reason why I like these games so much is that the worlds like kind of fold in on themselves, and there's so much attention to how they're laid out and how they're designed. And I think that's the thing, like most people are like, oh God, in an open world, that must be next to impossible. What's your experience with that sort of thing?
So I do get that. One of my favorite parts from any of the previous games is the thing of you walk through a castle, then you open a door and you're like, holy shit,
oh my God,
how did I get back here?
Yeah.
So I've only had one instance, and I'm obviously not going to go into it for spoiler reasons, but I've had one moment where I was like, I can't believe, for context, I was just like, I can't believe how big this game is. Like, I'm still early days, but I can't believe they've done this. And I know that on that front, it will pay off in certain ways. And you're welcome to pin this, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about when you've started the game yourself. But yeah, I think you're right on that front. They might lose some of that magic, but I think they more than make up for it, in other ways where it is just a thing of there's just lots to see, lots to do. And I think what's quite interesting is that, I don't know if I said it here, I think I did say it on the recording here, but a lot of people criticize, well, not a lot of people, but a lot of newcomers criticize the game saying like, where are my quest markers? Like, I don't know where to go. But can I tell you, it's actually a completely different experience where I open the map and it's not littered with 4 million different icons. It's literally just a map with some things I've seen. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to run in that direction and see what I encounter. And it's just nice to do that without feeling, not that I'm OCD by any measure, but there are parts of me that will pull open a map like, oh, I'm right here, I might as well do that. I'm right there, I might as well do that. I'm just going to methodically tick these things off. And you'll find with me, I often start many open world games doing that before I reach a point where I'm like, I don't need to do it. I'm just going to, I'm going to mainline the rest of this game because I've had my fill and I just want to like see the story to its end now. But again, like I've only played Elden Ring for 10 hours, so the charm is definitely still there where I can't wait to just poke around and, explore to my heart's content. But I don't know, maybe 40, 50 hours, I have the same thing of like, this game's too big. It's actually too much. I want to just kind of see it to its end now. But the thing with From games is that they are inherently very addictive. There's just something incredibly satisfying about the combat where it's not like overly complex in that you're doing, millions of combos or whatever. It's literally you walk up to an NPC, you hit them 3 times, they die. You get that little sound of like, whoosh, like you've got some XP here. You're like, oh, that's nice. Then we just keep doing this for hours and hours and then level up. And then, oh, wow, I just picked up a new weapon. And how does this weapon work? Now that's on, like, sorry, I'm going to bounce around a lot here, but like you mentioned in Bloodborne, for example, there's all these hidden areas, and that's in an enclosed game, quote unquote. I can't wait to see. I mean, we've already seen how the community is picking this game apart, finding secrets, doing things, but I wonder what other shit From have hidden in this game where it's like, yeah, if you go stand on this altar and do this this pose, whatever the hell, you'll teleport to this hidden part of the map, something. I mean, and even on that front, like I've had things happen to me where I end up somewhere in the map. I'm like, oh my God, how did I get here? I do think that they've laid in a lot of stuff here. And the nature of the games is that it's fun to replay. So I imagine people, as long as this game is and as big as it is, people are going to replay it. They'll take different classes, different builds, or they'll just do a new game plus with the existing build because it's just fun to, see how much better you are, how good are you at fighting some of the bosses, and yeah. So we'll see. Still early days, but man, I'm hooked. If you like From games, I don't see you not liking this. Like I just can't imagine somebody who is an existing fan turning around and saying like, oh no, this isn't what I want.
This is not their thing.
No, it's, I mean, I imagine there will be those people, but yeah.
I mean, I've seen actually more people this time around who are brand new to the series getting into it. Like, I've enjoyed seeing Taryn.
Taryn's like proper hooked,
Taryn is, and it's interesting because her partner Gareth is like super into these games. I remember back in the day, like before Bloodborne came out, he was playing it at Rage, and I was watching him play, and that was at the time when I didn't understand these games. I was just like, oh, this looks cool, but I've tried this many times. It's not going to click. So yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, Coven's playing it. It's cool to see new people giving it a go. And, I totally get it. If you tried it and you're like, this is the same Souls bullshit that I've tried before and it's not clicking with me, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to like this game. Like,
you don't have to,
totally
but
fun.
I do think to their credit, like, look, the easy mode arguments, we could sit and argue back and forth for hours. Like, should it have one? Should it not? Do they want to compromise their vision? X, Y, Z, whatever. I will give them credits on this department in that there are tools there. To their credit, there are tools that make the game easier. To their discredit, if that's the right expression, they don't make it obvious. Like, at no point, this is the perfect example. Okay, when you start the game, I'm sure you've seen this discourse on Twitter. They plonk you in the game, and then you can walk to a door and enter the big open world, or there's a pit to your right that you can fall into. Okay, have you
it's
heard
that tutorial thing?
It's
yes, yeah.
Only From would put their tutorial in a pit.
Yeah.
Where the experienced players would go, "Ooh, I can fall to that ledge. Oh, it's a tutorial." Cool.
Yeah.
Only they would do this. I'm like, it's kind of funny, but it's not. I'm like, just give people the tutorial. Like, just make it a little bit more obvious. Like, I don't know. But
no, I get that. Like, yeah, I mean, there is a limit to how obtuse you should be, and maybe there are better ways to go about that sort of thing. Like, onboarding people shouldn't be a challenge in itself.
But even that aside, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think previous games might have had summons, but this game, it's a feature. It's the thing of you can summon wolves or people. Not. I'm not talking players. Like, actual
summons seem like a big thing in this game.
And I'm like, that's like someone who wants to have the hard experience. Like, I'm specifically avoiding that stuff, not for any reason other than like I really want to have the hard experience. Like, I crave that. But it's interesting that we've got friends like Craig, who was watching me fight this boss over and over again. And he was like, I beat this boss first time. Why didn't you just summon the wolves? And I was like, because I don't want to. But it's nice to know that there is that tool
option's there. Yeah.
That option's there. Like, if you find that you're someone who just doesn't click with these games because they're too hard, like, there are tools. I know they're completely obscure.
Well, I think they're a lot less obscure now, because I mean, just coming off of Dark Souls 3, you need to have met certain NPC conditions for them to become summons in boss fights. So it's like, no, you don't even know those steps prior. Like, you can't summon shit.
But if you looking at Elden Ring going like, I've tried From games before and they're just not for me. And again, like, to get summons in this game, it's also an obscure thing. If you don't walk out and someone goes, oh, push X button to summon, it's a thing of you come back to a place, you meet a person and they explain to you. It's so not clear, but like, look it up. If you're wanting to make the game easier, figure out how to do the summons. And even that aside, like, the fact that it's an open world game, I think I've said to you and others that with games like this, it's interesting, how do they balance difficulty, right? Because, in their previous games, again, somewhat linear, they know by the time you get to this boss, you should be about level X, and, we'll balance it accordingly. Whereas this game, it's a matter of, no, you can go anywhere. You could get to a boss that's overpowered, or you overpowered, or vice versa, whatever. So, like, you really can dictate your experience here, where if you walk to a boss and they're too hard, just go explore somewhere else. Like, the game is balanced different. Like, no, the areas don't necessarily, tier off difficulty specifically or intentionally. It's you might walk into an area that's super easy and its neighboring area might have enemies that are 3 times harder. It's not like they have this deep system, not to my knowledge, where they want the difficulties sort of escalate as you play the game. Like, you can 100% go to areas at the beginning that are too difficult. But if I've also seen on Twitter where people are like, man, that boss that everyone's been struggling with, I beat it first time because I was just overpowered. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I completely get it. From our obscure and it can be infuriating, but I do think in this specific instance, like, they've actually put some tools there, to help players. And the fact that it's an open world, you can really dictate. Like, if a boss is too hard, just don't fight them. Try it once or twice. Like, it's not for me. Go somewhere else, get some levels, come back. It'll be a lot easier. So yeah, that's my view. I don't. I'm not going to get into the easy mode thing because you could put it in, I feel, but it's
I mean,
it's up for debate.
I was listening to GameSpot managing editor Timur Hussein on a podcast this week, and you know, outside of probably you, he's the one person that I converse with regularly that is the most into these sort of games. Like he's reviewed most of them for GameSpot. Like, and he made a very good point. He's like, you know, if they want to put in an easy mode into the game, they should. Like they can put one in, and I will not touch it. But people who want to touch it, they can play it, and I don't give a fuck. Like how you know, if did you complete Elden Ring on hard or easy mode? No one gives a shit.
Matter, no
one cares. But by the same token, if From Software feels it is critical to their vision to not have one, then their creative vision for that should be respected in the same way.
Yeah.
That isn't to say that the game can't be more accessible. There can't be provisions for people with you know, who need options to help them play games to have those in there. You know, there's a very big difference between accessibility and difficulty.
Yeah.
And sometimes they go hand in hand, but you know, none of the times not so much. So, you know what, at the end of the day, if you're someone who gets mad at someone online because they want to be able to play a game on an easier mode than you, then you are part of the problem. But by the same token, I do think difficulty is intrinsic to what makes these games so appealing and is so important to their sort of vibe and their flow. So I can understand from a creative standpoint why that's not, you know, something that From wants to look at. So
yeah, but even on that, like, so there's no explicit easy mode, right? But you'll find people who will tweet out saying like, I fought this boss using the summons, whatever. And immediately you'll 100% guaranteed to have one person saying like, "Oh, you're not playing the game right."
Oh yeah, I mean there was this whole debate already, like people being like, "Oh, if you're using magic, you're playing on easy mode." It's like, who the fuck cares?
That's my thing. I'm like, who cares? Like, you know that I've chosen not to play magic because I want to have the hard experience, but you best believe I'm not going to give two shits about somebody else. It's like, I've gone mage. I'm like, cool. If you're having fun with the game, good for you.
Also, if you're complaining about things that From Software has put in their game, like people are playing the game with tools that From Software gives them. Like you can't come up here and be like, that's the wrong way to play the game. Fuck off. Then if that is your view, then by the same token, you should have zero issue with people playing the game in a broken state, like using a cheat engine on PC to completely break the game open. Because you are basically saying, unless you play the way I play the game, then you're playing it wrong. Then who says your way is correct? Like,
no. It's an interesting debate, but you can't please everyone, unfortunately.
Oh, of course not. So, you never will. This is the internet. You will never do it. Yeah,
impossible. But yeah, that's nearly 30 minutes on Elden Ring based on 10 hours. Just you wait till we've put in dozens of hours.